Y'all think you know country music? See if you knew this. Part 169. Back in the early 70s, singer-songwriter Terry Stafford was about to try his luck in Music City. Now, Terry had grew up and lived in Amarillo, Texas. And in 1964, he had a real big hit song called Suspend, that real big follow-up single. So he kind of drifted away from the rock scene for a couple of years after that. Then in 1969, Buck Owens recorded one of Terry's songs called Big in Vegas.
With my guitar and my dreams, I had to try to play and sing in Vegas.
Well, that got Terry thinking about singing again. Then in 1973, Terry signed a new record deal with Atlantic Records' brand new Nashville division. While he was there, Terry met another songwriter named Paul Frazier. Paul had been contacted about writing a score for a movie. So he got together with Terry every morning and they'd work on songs for this. Well, one night Terry had played a rodeo in San Antonio. And while him and the band was heading back to Amarillo after the show was over, Terry started playing around with a song idea and a little melody he had. Then a little while later, when Terry got home, he was watching TV when a FedEx commercial came on, saying they could get your package to places like Amarillo by the next morning. Well, that struck Terry like lightning. A few minutes later, he called Paul to tell him about his new idea. And they agreed they'd get together the next morning and try to write it. But Terry was feeling so inspired that he sat at his kitchen table that night, and about an hour later, he had written most of the song that would become Amarillo by Morning. The next morning when Paul got there, they finished it. Well, now Terry had him a pretty good little rodeo ballad. And later that same year, in 1973, he went into Jack Clement's recording spa in Nashville and recorded Amarillo by Morning, complete with a xylophone. Whenever it was released, Terry's version didn't actually do that bad. I mean, it hit number 31 on the Billboard Country charts. Terry had just got tired of doing shows, and he didn't want to perform in front of a live audience. He'd rather be at home writing songs. Well, then a couple of years later, in 1975, Chris Ledoux cut Amarillo by Morning on his record, Life of a Rodeo Man, a great record. Now, unknown to Terry and Paul at the time, that their little song had also became a very highly requested song in the Texas honky tonks. A few years later, in 1982, MCA Nashville's hottest singer, Mr. George Strait, was recording his second album that would be called Straight from the Heart. George was just coming off his very first #1 song, Foolhardy Memory, and he was red hot. George's producer, Blake Mevis, thought that George should record Amarillo by Morning. Blake had heard George sing this at his live shows with his Ace in the Hole band, and he really thought they should cut it. Now, of course, George loved this idea because he'd been singing this song all through the late 70s and early 80s in them Texas honky tonks. He had been one of the main ones that these crowds had requested the song to. So they cut the song to be included on Straight from the Heart, which will be released on June 3rd, 1982. But good old MCA had taken it upon themselves at the time to try and change George's style. And they wanted him to go more toward a pop direction and kind of drop the honky-tonk western swing thing. Now, I know, it's a big shocker that a major label would want to take a winning combination and try to change it for no other reason than just to look like the smartest person in the room, while in turn you look like the dumbest. But thankfully, George Strait wouldn't have it. He wasn't going to give in. He was going to stay true to who he was, no matter what it meant. So they made a deal. MCA said, okay, we'll release Marina Del Rey as the first single. If it does good, then we'll do Amarillo by Morning as the next single. So they did. Marina Del Rey was released as a single September 16th, 1982. And it hit number 6, pretty strong. And a few months later, on January 14th, 1983, true to their word, MCA released Amarillo by Morning as the next single and waited for it to fail. But hey, guess what? It didn't fail. As a matter of fact, it stayed on the charts for 17 weeks.
One morning, Amarillo, I'll be there.
Now, it never did hit number 1, but you wouldn't have ever been able to tell the difference. Officially, it hit number 4. And my personal belief is, if MCA would have promoted it about another month, it probably would have hit number 1. But then again, that would have made them wrong, wouldn't it? Well, wronger than they already was. They thought the song was going to fail. So they probably made sure that number 4 was going to be as high as it got. Anyway, it's Georgia's only single of the 1980s to go double platinum. What does that tell you? Today on streaming services, it is the very top or the second to the top most streamed George Strait song. And it's one of George Strait's best songs he ever recorded. So y'all tell me, who do you think won that little escapade? Appreciate y'all watching. Leave in the comments your favorite George Strait song. Don't forget to like, share with your friends. I appreciate y'all, and I'll see you next time.